hit of, I think it's dopamine. Even then, it didn't make me happy. Hello, welcome back to my channel. So I said my next video was going to be a reading vlog. It's not.
I am as I am, and I ain't going to apologise for it or make no excuses about it.
But I've seen a lot of videos talking about like booktok books, either saying like their bad experience with booktok books, or just reading vlogs, reading like the booktok books that they've seen most on booktok. I love booktok stuff. I used to have TikTok. I've had TikTok 3 times. I just always end up deleting it. But I had a good time when it's the booktok stuff, because sometimes other stuff gets in there, like a lot of bad stuff, and it's kind of annoying me, and I just feel like Instagram Reels are better at keeping the content like right on my For You page. Like, it's always stuff that interests me more than the TikTok For You page. But yeah, I have read, obviously when I was on booktok a lot, and you get booktok stuff on Instagram Reels as well, and the books circulating Instagram are usually the same, the ones that circulate booktok. Booktube, quite different. Booktube is more subdued. Just the only word I can think of with their recommendations. I find booktube is more fantasy and dark academia recommendations. I never see as much like romance and stuff as you do on booktok. That's kind of it, because booktok also has a lot of fantasy. I've gotten a lot of fantasy and academia books from booktok. All in all, I just find booktok is very, for me personally, it's been very 50-50. I've picked up mostly series from booktok. Had Akatar. I really liked Akatar, but I'm halfway through and I've stopped reading, and I got halfway through about 2 years ago and stopped reading. But I do feel like I am going to pick it up because I have all the books, and I feel like it's a waste, and I feel like where I am now, I will probably continue to enjoy it from where I am now. And also have the Cruel Prince series. That was on booktok a lot. I love the Cruel Prince series. The Shatter Me series was on booktok a lot, and I love the Shatter Me series. The Caraval series keeps popping up on there a lot lately, which is funny because I read the Caraval series in like the year the first book come out. So not the whole series right away, but I never got the Rex from the internet. I found Caraval in Tesco's, and then I read
Again, so you put me up. So this morning I'm in Tesco's and the girls.
I read the back and I was like, that sounds great. I thought it was a circus book because I just read The Night Circus, so I was looking for something similar, and Caraval seems similar. It's not, but I love the Caraval series, and that's on there, but booktok didn't take me there, so I don't really class them as booktok books because I didn't get them from whereas Akatar, Cruel Prince, Shatter Me, I got all from booktok. But I loved them, and what I read of Akatar, the first 2 books, I loved. It's just I started getting halfway through the 3rd and I just got bored. But even that, I still class what I read of that series so far as a win. And same with Shatter Me, same with Cruel Prince. In fantasy sci-fi, booktok is very, very good. And that's what I'm trying to say. There are certain genres in booktok that are super good, and I feel you should. When booktok recommends fantasy or sci-fi, definitely pick it up. When it recommends romance
and this is what I'm doing. I'm not getting involved.
And I'm including Colleen Hoover in that, even though ultimately I don't think she's a romance author. I've only read one book. I have Verity, because my friend, she's not a huge Colleen Hoover fan, but she reads a lot, and she said Verity is actually very, very good. And so I am going to give that a go. But other than that, I've only read Ugly Love, and it was entertaining, but I felt kind of bad about myself after reading it. I don't know, something about it just felt dirty, and it kind of put me off reading anything else. I don't know, because it's like, it wasn't a romance. It felt like it was just trying to be too real, but also at the same time it was very far-fetched. I don't know.
This is me. Again. So you put me up. So this morning I'm in Tesco's and the girl.
I got through it really quickly. It kind of felt like how I feel after watching reality TV. It's like, wow, like a quick hit of, I think it's dopamine. Even then, it didn't make me happy. Let's just move on. There's like a whole thing about Colleen Hoover. I don't know her personally. I haven't read a lot of her books, but you hear things, and I've read one book and some quotes that come from it. Yeah, I don't know, do what you want. But yeah, what am I getting at?
I'm a massive fan of the dictionary, you know.
So yeah, BookTok recommendations, very 50-50. Sci-fi, fantasy, amazing. Colleen Hoover is a whole genre of her own. And then there's romance, which is really upsetting, because I love romance and I love a good romance, but I just don't find them very often. And BookTok is full of them, and they have disappointed me every time. I'm a cringy gal. I am very cringy, and I love cringe, especially over dramatic romance. But like, for example, the Spanish Love Deception, just like, I couldn't even get to the halfway point. From the very first few pages, I was like, oh, ew. I don't like the way it was written. I don't like the way the characters spoke. Everything about it was just super uncomfortable, and I hate it. Enemies to lovers only works for me when it's fantasy, in a fantasy setting. Enemies to lovers in real life, like modern day, no fantasy elements, like just normal, it's just weird and gross, because there's never a good enough reason for them to not like each other in the first place. It's just like, oh, your vibe's off, I hate you. 10 pages in, they're making out. Yeah. And that's been the same thing, the Love Hypothesis. People love it. I got a few pages in, because what I've started doing now, I've stopped buying the BookTok recs right away, and I just go onto Google, and Google can give you like the first 50 pages. And so I just, with the Love Hypothesis, everyone was raving about it. I was like, it's Raylo fanfic. I don't really care about them as a ship couple. I didn't really like the recent Star Wars trilogy. Not necessarily for the characters. Okay, oh my god, this could be like a whole video, so all I'll say is there was so much potential and they used none of it for the book. But I was like, I got like 30 pages in, and it's the way it's written. These American, I don't even know if the author of the Love Hypothesis was American also. I'm pretty sure the Love Deception author was also American. Maybe she was British, I don't know. But it just seemed American cringe. No offense to Americans, but there's a certain level of cringe that you create in your media that is just too much. I like cringe, but there's a certain kind of cringe that these modern day romances on BookTok are bringing, and it makes every part of me twitch and I want to die. And then there's the dark academia side. So there are other genres, but I mainly read fantasy and sci-fi with a splash of dark academia. And then I used to read a lot of romance, but it just disappointed me, and I find better romances within the sci-fi and fantasy genre. But yeah, those are my genres. So dark academia, I think, very leveled ground. Bunny, I loved Bunny, but Bunny is definitely not everyone's cup of tea. I loved it, but it's a very love or hate book. The that was good. And then I also got If We Were Villains from BookTok. I did enjoy it overall, but there were a lot of boring parts. And then there was Babel. Babel was equally all over BookTok, Instagram and YouTube. I liked it, but I'm afraid to say that I didn't love it, because all I've heard is people loving it. Even when I bought it in Waterstones, The Man at the Candles on my friend read this and it's one of his favourite books now. I was like, oh yay. I listened to the audiobook, and I used to mostly listen to it while I was at work, and the time that I was listening to it at work was like one of the worst times at work, so I think that might have like dulled the experience for me. So I'm not fully saying that. I did enjoy it, but people were like crying and screaming at the end, but I finished it, I was like, yeah. And then I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and I bawled like a baby. But like, the purpose of this video is to say that overall, you should not judge a BookTok recommendation. They are just as reliable as any other recommendation from BookTube, Instagram, BookTok, the Windows and Waterstones, like Goodreads, Top 100, whatever. It's all very equal, and people are very quick to judge BookTok. Romance-wise, yeah, you should judge them, but if they recommend a fantasy series, honestly, go for it. It's rarely let me down. I say rarely, I don't think it's ever let me down. I feel like I wrapped that up quite well. BookTok is, what will I even call this? Can you trust BookTok? Yeah. So yeah, I might do a reading vlog with TikTok recommendations. Fun. Okay. Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you liked it. If you didn't like it, bye. And subscribe as well for more. See you next time.